followers should be public. I absolutely don't believe that. Now, that is a very controversial
Is that
subject.
a little bit like how Facebook and Instagram have gotten rid of the likes? Is that your kind of view?
I'm saying that when you go onto a profile, you can see how many followers they have.
Yeah.
You can't hide it. There are many mechanisms on LinkedIn that met your own metrics. When you put a post up, for example, you're the only one that can see how many views or likes it has. The rest of the platform can see how much engagement, how many likes or comments, but you can only see how many views there is. And so there's certain metrics that is only for the profile owner. So coming back to the showing how many followers you have, I wish that wasn't visible.
Why?
Because I believe it lures people into a false sense of belief and social proof around the validity of a person. Knowing the conduit between a lot of ostensible influencers who I know have bought services to bump up their profile perception.
Yeah.
And so I believe that, again, judge someone on the content they're producing, their profile elegance and eloquence, and judge on the value that they're bringing in their engagement and their engagement.
What makes good content for you on LinkedIn? What makes a good person to follow on LinkedIn if you don't know them, right? So let's say that you've got the people that you know, you've got the people that you like, you've got the people you aspire to be, the Richard Bransons, the Bob Igers, etc., that we follow because we want to hear their advice, which is somehow going to magically change our business. Aside from those people and the people you know, the people you've worked with, the people you'd like to work with, the people you know through your industry, why would you follow anybody else, and what would they be bringing to you? What could they be doing to make you excited enough?
Great question. I think that any decision you make, whether who you follow and the content you enjoy, that it has to entertain, enlighten and educate. So they're the three pillars I look at. Well, does that person entertain me? Does that person enlighten me? Does that person educate me?
Yeah.
Now, that is all very relevant, as we spoke about last week, on what your personal goals and your business aspirations are on that platform.
Yes.
But I think those three pillars, and ideally, if you can put them all in one, is an ideal pot of gold.
Yes.
But I think that they are the elements that you must, and everyone has a different version of what's entertaining and education and enlightening.
Yeah,
I think.
it is a tricky point, isn't it? Because as you say, a lot of people see it as a way to show off their personality, and it doesn't quite come across because it isn't Facebook. I had to find a way. I had no idea how to unfollow or to get rid of someone on LinkedIn until our conversation last week, and now I've been on a spree because I thought that, wait a minute, I'm seeing a lot of stuff I just don't need to see, and followed one person because they had done something interesting, only to find out that every couple of hours they were putting photographs up of them, and it was like a modeling shoot portfolio, and I'm like, I really don't care. I'd follow you on Instagram if I cared about how you look or what you're doing in your private time.
Yeah.
It's not for LinkedIn.
Well, your vibe attracts your tribe, and so it's interesting you use that.
What are you trying to say there? My vibe attracts my tribe.
Well, I
and
think,
it's a model. What are you trying to say here,
well,
Sue?
I think that the people we choose to follow,
Yes.
and the people we gravitate to, and the people who gravitate to us, is about what resonates, and therefore your vibe does attract your tribe. So, you know, if your personality is intrinsic to your personal brand, and your personal brand obviously has to come out because it's from your personal profile, leading into your business profile. So, of course, if you are by nature a very straight, stoic type person, which you and I aren't, well, therefore our content and our profile...
Come on, straight enough, I think is the term, right, Sue?
Well, as in straight, as in, very stoic and very conservative. But if that's your style,
Yes.
it should be reflective in your profile and reflective in the content, because again, that is who you are, and people, it's a human platform initially before a business platform. But
Well, because that's a very good point, because on the other side you see some people who you never feel like you get to know, and they're just putting up 10 tips for success, 10 tips for this. That doesn't tell me who this person is, other than they want to be successful, which everyone wants to be successful, right? Everyone wants to win Tats Lotto. If the only thing that you're putting out is that you want to win Lotto, well, you kind of come across a little bit desperate. Do you think that there is that risk of desperation if you're not showing your authentic self on LinkedIn, that perhaps you're coming across as someone that no one wants to know?
Look, again, it comes back to your vibe attracts your tribe. Conservative people will generally gravitate to conservative people. And it's interesting you make that analogy of listicles. I actually did a listicle a couple of months ago. I called it "Don't Be a Donkey on LinkedIn." And I use it in a, because I actually love it.
What was on the list?
Donkeys. But don't be a donkey. And I wanted to make some really salient points, but in a humorous way, because that's my style.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that you have to be mindful, well, what is your normal communication style?
Yeah.
So if you're getting up and having a bit of jokes and comedy, not everyone does, and in that way, try and imbue that. So that is the way you can show your personality.
I mentioned Bob Iger and Richard Branson. Who are the big names that you follow on LinkedIn?
Neither of them.
No, I know, I'm not them, but who do you follow that perhaps you look up to?
Brene Brown is my favourite.
And tell us why.
She's the world authority on shame and vulnerability and how it impacts, and she's just written a book, Dare to Lead, so I love the brand name. So Brene Brown offers extraordinary insight into topics. So if we talk about what I said earlier about entertain, educate and enlighten, she does it all.
Yes.
And so what she offers is of great personal and professional value, and I think that is a good comment too in what you're talking about, who we gravitate towards, because the personal and the professional all meshes into one.
Yeah.
And so that's probably my favourite. I don't follow the ostensible big names because frankly I don't.
You don't want to see a picture of Richard Branson hanging upside down on Virgin Island?
Not particularly. I'm not particularly.
No. You mentioned about the expert advice that you give people through your company and through your job. Give us some ideas of the sorts of questions that people come to you with.
How do I come across without looking like a braggart?
Right.
How do I connect with people? The first thing that you need to do is have a profile which is inspiring and informative.
Yeah.
And again, that's in your voice. And it has, what's the purpose of having a profile on LinkedIn? You want people to be inspired to contact you. You want people to feel informed. And it's also building up that platform of curiosity. Oh, I'd like to know more about that person.
Yeah.
That person intrigues me. So the first place when what people come to me say, well, how do I do that? And there's an interesting belief by some that you should write a profile in the third person, which you just don't do. It's always first person.
That's the number one lesson, isn't it? When you're writing your profile, you talk to people as if you're yourself. You don't say, Aaron has been a journalist since he was a kid.
No, you keep that for the speaker bio, the media bio, and
your
whatnot.
website where you pretend that someone else wrote your bio.
And it's interesting, look, I wrote an article recently about that, and I said that unless you are a prime minister or a famous celebrity or an ASX director, it has to be in the first person.
Yeah.
Even if it's not in the first person, it can be what I call the neutral person.
Yeah.
But it is a personal profile, and too many people are doing this, and it's quite bizarre because it just doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right.
Kind of a beginner's mistake, isn't it? To cop when you start your LinkedIn profile. I think by now everyone already has their LinkedIn profile up and running. But certainly for me, I took the bio from my old Sky bio, which was written by a publicity team, just copied it and pasted it into my LinkedIn. And it wasn't until I actually stumbled across some tips, it might have even been written by you, that said, don't ever do it in the third person. You need to talk to people straight down the line.
And look, it's a bit of a conundrum for very senior leaders, and I understand this position.
That's very true,
How does a senior leader
put
in
a bit of space between themselves?
And you can do it very elegantly, but it's certainly not in the third person.
Okay.
It can be in the neutral person, and it can be done very elegantly. But as I said, unless you're a prime minister or a very senior business leader, it has to be
direct.
Very much inspiring and direct.